Today we are making a Victorian bathtub. I've seen a bathtub like this in museums and I was intrigued. And then recently I actually saw a bathtub like this at an antique store and I took a picture because I was like so intrigued. We are going to attempt to make this today. I am using, just to make my circle easier, I'm just using a round circle. I'm going to try the 1-inch one. We'll see how that goes. And we're going to use cardboard. This is just off of like a cereal box. I'm going to use glue. This in here is tacky glue. And scissors. And I have some metallic copper paint. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so we're going to start. We're going to start with a nice little round center. And then let's go ahead and cut a section of my box. I'm going to actually probably cut this because if you see, I don't cut straight. That was terrible. So I'm going to probably pull out my craft knife. And do a nice clean cut. I actually have been using the Fiskars. These are an easy release. You just pull it out and then pull it. It's great. I will put a link in the description below. They are really, really, really cool. It was a Christmas gift. I think I might need a new blade though, but that's neither hide nor hair. I can put a new blade on in just a hot second. Okay. So now I have a nice, end. I am going to just kind of say that it's probably going to be pretty narrow, looking at that picture. Let's just say it's going to be roughly... So I'm just eyeballing all this, and let's just say we're going to make this, I'm going to make it a 1/2 inch at the moment. So let's do a 1/2 inch. I can always cut it down. So let's go ahead and make my mark, and let's go ahead and cut this off. Okay, so what I'm going to do out of this is I am going to simply make this the size and wrap this around that. I think I'm going to leave the extra wrappings on because it makes it stronger than if I just did it one around. So let's go ahead and do that. And let me go ahead, just so I don't have this on here, I'm going to see if I can get off the, yeah, I can. Not on this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and, if I could just get off just a little bit more, that would be fabulous. I'm going to go ahead and take off as much as I can of the glossy side. And this glossy side is just not wanting to come up. It's not as nice as some cereal boxes. Remembering not to do this box again. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of glue. I just have tacky glue in a little red Solo cup because it just makes it easier. And we're going to simply put some wax paper down so I don't glue onto my table. I'm just going to attach that. And then I'm just going to keep gluing around it so that it is glued the whole way around. And we're almost there. Almost at the end. Okay, so we're going to pop that around like that. I am going to go ahead and pop a little clamp on that because I want that to be glued tight. And then this will go inside at some point. Okay, well that's a little bit bigger, so maybe not. First I'm going to take my ring and I'm going to make a base for this. And we're going to simply cut that ring out so I can have a base. And if you notice, I had glued that and it's a little bit bigger than here, so I'm just trying to have a nice base. So let's go ahead and glue that onto the base and see how that works. I might actually continue to put the wood piece in there just for stability. We shall see, we shall see. Okay. If I want stability, we're just going to pop this in here. And just give that stability right there. Okay, next up, we are going to have to make the wide circle. I have some red solo cups here. I'm going to just make a big circle. I'm going to just trace that. It's the round circle that I happen to have handy, so that's the size we're going to make it. So let's go ahead and cut this. And that is going to sit on the top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace another one of these small pieces right in the middle, and we're going to cut that out. Take a little bit of a snip out of here so I can start it. But I'm just going to cut it with scissors. And once you get it started, you should be able to go just straight around it. You know, I went antiquing looking for dollhouse stuff, and I didn't find any dollhouse stuff, but I found a whole bunch of ideas. And I can't complain about that. So this is now going to sit right on there. So let's go ahead and glue that on. So gluing this right on. Let's just sit that right on top of there. That's actually kind of cool. So the next thing that was on there is, if you look at the picture, there was like a little seat. So we're going to make a little seat. I think we're gonna make it out of this little flap on this side. And let's see here. So let's turn it in. Let's turn it in here and make a nice fold. I always use my straight edge just to make my fold. Okay, and then let's turn the other side in and make another straight fold. And then I'm going to fold it down. I'm going to take my straight edge and I'm going to just take an edge and cut, score there, because I want to be able to fold this piece down to make a little kind of box, I guess you could say. And then we're going to fold this up and that up. And voila, I have like a little part of a box. Let me look at the picture here real quick. Okay, and that actually comes the whole way out to the edge. So we are going to mark my edge. And I'm just going to take it around the edge here. Let's go ahead and glue my corners. Let's go ahead and glue the corners down, because that way I won't be fighting that the whole time. And then I'm just going to glue that on. I think I'm okay with it the back being open. We're going to paint that so it's not going to be able to very obvious. And so voila. As easy as that out of cardboard. So let's go ahead now and do the fun part. Let's go ahead and paint this. I do have some copper paint. So let's get some paint out, and ooh, it's shiny. Now, because I left that open, I do need to paint on the inside here. Okay, we want copper on the inside. Now I can turn this into something, you know, with different colors and add more patina later, but changing my mind, I'm going to want to add an extra layer of this to the bottom because it is bowing too much. So let's go ahead and just trace that. We're going to go glue that together, and then we'll recommence with painting. Okay. So now we're just painting the bottom. And I do want to paint the bottom because it may at some point be sitting in an attic or something of a dollhouse, and I want to make sure that the bottom looks copper also. Okay, we just want to make sure that everything on the edges are done. And any place that I might have put my fingers. And then I'm going to try to leave a bead of copper around the edge. because it looks like there's a bead. Just going to take a while to dry, but my goal is to make that look like a weld. And voila, we have a bathtub.